Live.
There we
Oh,
go.
we're
I think
live.
we're live. Hey guys, welcome to the fifth rOilers podcast, or full podcast. I guess it's actually the sixth one now, if we include the quick hits. I am Adam, otherwise known as Sweet44722. With me today we have James
James Paul hyphen McCartney.
and Arun.
Hi, I'm Arun. On Reddit, ArunInsec5.
All right, I think we'll start things off right away. This is kind of a question I thought of a few minutes ago, but if you had two words to describe this upcoming season, if you could talk to the fan base as a whole, what would your two words be? And give a maybe 30-second explanation as to why. Start with Arun.
I can't really think of two words because what I was thinking of before was four, and then I want to think of something official, and then I couldn't. So I'm just gonna go with who knows what we're doing. Oh no, it's not who knows what we're doing, but who knows where we're going. And it's just that there's a lot of questionable pieces that sort of solves our problems that's in place. There's a lot of this and that's come in. There's a lot of question marks in terms of can Connor McDavid do well? Can Yak finally make it into a full season performance over 82 games instead of 40? So yeah, that's basically it. It's who knows what'll happen.
My two words are cautious optimism. I am optimistic. I mean, obviously, we've had Connor McDavid parachuted onto the team. We've shored up goaltending, brought in, Andre Sekera, good, hopefully top pairing guy. But we did come in third last season for a reason. There are massive holes everywhere on this team. So I think that cautious optimism is what I would say.
Mine is. Oh, my webcam's up here. Mine is tempered expectations, and that's more or less because while we've gotten Sekera and Korpikoski and Letestu and Talbot and Nilsson and all
And
this big
McDavid.
stuff, and of course McDavid, um, we still have to, I think, reserve a little bit of uh, overjoyedness because we are still building as a team. We have a new coach again. We have new management. It's going to be a different direction. So tempered expectations, I think, what we have to maintain. Uh,
Yep.
from there, we now, because we did the draft podcast and it got long and we covered a bunch of stuff, we're going to kind of go back to where we left off before the draft, which would have been free agent, or not free agency, sorry, the assistant coach signings or hirings. So it would have been Jay Woodcroft and Jim Johnson, who were both assistant coaches with Todd McClellan over in San Jose before he was hired by the Oilers. So speak on that a bit. James, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'll start. I mean, they obviously came over from San Jose alongside McClellan, so I mean, he knows what strengths and weaknesses they've got. I I'm a little bit wary or unsure of coaches doing this. Usually, I like the idea of bringing in new blood a lot of the time, but um, they've been together for 7 years. Woodcroft was there, and Johnson was there for 3 years. So I mean, they all know each other. San Jose is pretty good team. So overall, I'm okay with it. But I believe there's still one assistant coach job that needs to be filled because Rocky Thompson, he left to go coach Windsor in the Ontario Hockey League.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like there to be like a true outsider brought in as well. I don't want someone else brought over from San Jose. I want it to be someone totally new to the organization. And hopefully they haven't hired somebody in the last 12 hours or so. Otherwise, I'd look like a total idiot. But yeah.
Uh, by the way, who's the new coach for San Jose? Or they've not hired anyone
DeBoer.
yet?
Peter DeBoer.
Is it?
Oh.
I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that.
Oh, okay. That should be fun. Um, yeah, I'm sort of it's again like we mentioned earlier, like a lot of cautious optimism, because there was good in like what was said, and there was also like what was done in San Jose, and there was also some bad stuff, primarily the fact that they missed the playoffs last season. But hey, what worked before probably should work again.
Yeah, I know. I'm happy with it. I mean, I think they said that Jim Johnson's defensive expert, so that's always a benefit when we have a lot of young defensemen. A coach is known for improving defensemen, and the power play was always pretty good in San Jose, so that's going to help a lot too. McClellan, and if you have Jay Woodcroft, who's his right-hand man running the power play, it's more than likely going to end well, especially with the talent we have on the offensive side of the game right now. As far as hiring another assistant coach, I'm not really sure who else is available. I mean, Paulers was the last one. He got hired by Anaheim, so we're not really sure who else is out there at this point. And
Maybe we could call on some junior
Yeah,
level coach.
it seems like that's what will happen at this point because there's not really I can't think of any off the cuff NHL head coaches that would either be willing to sign us or there's head assistant coach or still looking for position. Unless you look for Randy Carlisle, which I'd rather not do.
No, please
But-
no, please no.
God no, but it'll be
When people leave, yeah, when people leave a market like Toronto or Montreal, the spotlight is on them so intensely that it's hard to recover from being fired in there in a lot of places. I feel like Michel Therrien, he's got to coach the Canadians twice now, and he's like an exception to the rule, I think. So I don't know. I feel like Carlisle, Ron Wilson before him, they've both been like blackballed almost from, not blackballed, but like they're having issues getting taken seriously.
I have a solid idea for an assistant coach, and maybe Mike Dineen or Kevin Dineen. Whoops.
Kevin did. He coached the women's team, right?
Yes, he coached the Panthers before that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought of that before. I do like him, but he seems like he did pretty good work with the women's team, so I don't know if they're going to want to give him up. He coached them at the Olympics last year, right? He came in with only like a couple of months' notice, I think. So he did a hell of a job. I don't know whether or not they would want him to go, but yeah, that's a good idea actually. I hadn't thought of him.
he's an assistant coach with the Hawks right now.
Actually,
Yeah.
since when?
Since
That
July
explains
14th,
why the Hawks are
2014.
doing well.
Yeah, that's the entire reason behind it.
The entire
there you go.
like, it has nothing to do with Kane or Taves or Keith or
Those plebs can't do anything. It's all the coach.
no, it's all the coach.
Coach Q and Coach
Yeah,
Dean.
Coach Q is busy distracting his enemies with his balls, and Dineen is there to coach.
Explains everything. So moving on slightly. If we look at the draft, I guess if we wanted any final thoughts, although we covered it pretty well last time, so we might be able to just jump over that if you guys are feeling that.
Yeah, but I feel like we did a pretty
Yeah,
good
we
job
covered
with
that pretty well.
It was about like an
Yeah.
hour and a half of the podcast last time. So
yeah, there was a lot to talk about.
yeah. So
That took a long-
moving on then, I guess July 1st was free agent frenzy, and the date for those who don't know where players become free agents on the market, meaning they can sign with any team if they're an unrestricted free agent. They can sign with any team they feel has the best offer for them. And we this year, surprisingly enough, signed Andrei Sekera, who was one of the best defensemen available this year for a fairly reasonable contract over long term, and Mark Letestu, who is said to be a more offensive form of Boyd Gordon. Starting with you, Arun, this time. What do you think of the pickups? And are you happy, sad? Would you rather have got somebody else? Do you feel we missed out?
Curse you, Shirley, because I went out here last podcast and he's not going to do much. Like, he's indicating that he's not going to do much. Not much is going to happen. And then on our Edmonton Oilers, on that Stauffer thread, I called it. He's not going to do anything. And then he goes off and does like two of the best signings, or one of the better signings and one of the best signings in Letestu. So for those of you that don't know what the signings were, what we ended up doing is that we signed Andrei Sekera, a 29-year-old defenseman, at 5.5 million per year average over 6 years, and that was a front-loaded contract. But in terms of cap hit, it comes out to 5.5 a year. And then the latter one is Mark Letestu. How many years did we sign him?
3.
3.
3 years for 1.8 million
Mm-hmm.
each year. And for those of you that missed it as well, there was one trade. This was before the free agency frenzy began, or 2 trades. I don't remember what the second one was.
Nilsson and
Yes. So the first trade was
Korpikoski for Boyd Gordon.
Yeah, Korpikoski for Boyd Gordon in a straight 1-for-1, and then the other one was I forget his name. He's like a nobody.
Nilsson for like a fringe prospect.
Yeah, a fringe prospect that's playing in the AHL currently, and got traded for Anders Nilsson, who was formerly a developing project with the New York Islanders, who ended up leaving the team because they wouldn't give him a permanent starting job, and eventually stuck with Nabokov. And then what ended up happening was his rights got traded to Chicago, and Chicago ended up trading his rights to us. And that's basically it. Both trades great. So in that sense, kudos to Chiarelli, because you did some fantastic moves during the free agency period. Only ones that I'm a little questionable on is the fact that Sekera may be signed on either for 1 year too long or 0.5 million too much. But that's pretty much it.
I guess I'll go through them all at once like that. With regards to
we'll break it down later.
Trades,
Well,
I
just
guess.
did like a summary.
Yeah, I think that would be good. But with regards to the trades, the Nilsson one with Chicago surprised me. I thought that the Oilers were going to roll with Talbot and Scrivens, but I do like the trade. I mean, Liam Coughlin, he was only drafted last year. He's scoring over a point a game in the BCHL Junior A, which is not really super impressive. I don't know where he's supposed to play next year, but fringe prospect, more competition for Scrivens, whatever. Like, I'm down with that. I like that. And then Gordon for Korpikoski. Yeah, I like it. I don't know. I'm not like stoked on it per se. I don't think Korpikoski is actually anything too great, but Gordon, he was slowing down, and signing of Letestu was essentially his replacement. And Letestu for 1.8 mil over 3 years is a fantastic signing. Gordon's cap hit was 3, I believe, so that's it's a significant improvement cap-wise, and I think that Letestu will be. He's quite good on faceoffs as well, isn't he?
He's a left wing.
No, sorry, Letestu, not Korpikoski.
Letestu is pretty good, yes.
Center.
Letestu is a pretty good
regardless, like
yes.
From what I understand, he's pretty good on faceoffs. So
yes,
I'm really, really, really okay with that. And then Sekera, yeah, God, I don't know. I'm not as excited as everybody else is about this signing. I think that he's not paid like a true number one. 5.5 mil is like a lot of money, but like a true number one, that's like 6.5 or 7 or whatever.
7.
But
7,
I think he's going to be, I think he's going to be played like a number one and expected to, have that workload. He's never been a true number one before, so cautiously optimistic about him. 29, we get him for his prime years. The cap hit is reasonable, 5.5. So, I mean, cautiously optimistic, but I'm not as stoked on this signing as everybody else is. But screw it, like, he's a good player. So let's roll with it and be happy that we got him.
So one thing I do want to highlight about Sekera is that he's usually, even with the LA Kings, who I think it was a second line pairing, he was still averaging well over 20 minutes a game, like around 21 minutes. One game he played 26 minutes. So like he's fine with chewing up minutes if he has to. But that's one point.
Hopefully.
Yeah, for me, I'm actually really excited about the Sekera signing primarily because uh, we had primarily two goals during the draft. It was well three, I guess. If you count drafting McDavid was one.
Mm-hmm.
Two would have been acquiring goaltender, and we acquired our top target in Talbot for a very good deal, in my
Very high
opinion.
praise.
And third was getting a defenseman. And although we didn't get a defenseman to the draft, we drafted a bunch of defensemen, but we also picked up Sekera for what I think is, I mean, a front-loaded contract is good in the sense that because he's at the age where towards the end of his contract, his play might go down or he gets injured, we can buy him out for less money than what it would have cost us if we paid him the same over the whole time, which I really like that. But Sekera, like Arun pointed out, has played big minutes in Carolina and LA before. He was a reliable defenseman there. He was by far and away the best defenseman in Carolina when he was there, which isn't even, I mean, it's Carolina, so it's kind of like our situation where it's like, oh, he's good, but he's good for that team. Not really that great.
Hmm.
But Sekera was still a solid defenseman, and I believe he will be a solid defenseman for us in the future. Whether you say that the contract is too long or too expensive, in my opinion, it's kind of that thing where there weren't very many good defensemen available this year, especially not at cheap prices. If
Yeah,
we look
if he didn't get the money from us, he would have got it from someone else.
exactly, and I think that's part of the paying the extra little fee. I know people are complaining about overpayment this summer for a lot of the prospect or a lot of the agents, but when you're looking at signing free agents, you're always gonna have to pay a little more, regardless of what climate you're in, what team you are, what player you're signing, because you're gonna have to if you're going for a good player, you have to outbid other teams. And in this sense, we gave him a bit more money and a bit more length than maybe a bunch of people thought he was worth. But in that sense, we give up a little bit for a lot more than we could have gotten. We could have ended up with a player who we wouldn't have been happy with. In this sense, we end up with Skara, who is a good defenseman and will be a big part of our team in the future, or at least for the next few years. With Korpikoski, I guess for me he's more of like just a filler. He's a play third left wing. He's not a difference maker. They said people are saying like the reports are saying he's pretty quick, but he's very inconsistent with the scoring, which we don't really need. He's older, which I mean if you look in the veteran presence is good, but I think he's more there to challenge, to push the prospects for that position. As Lepeshev isn't going to get gifted it, he's going to play in the AHL more than likely. Miller is going to have to come back and play really well if he wants to even compete for that spot. And so that whole thing is that I think he's more of a filler. Letestu, on the other hand, I love the signing. The signing. I think he's a better Boyd Gordon. He's a younger Boyd Gordon.
By stats and advanced stats, yeah.
Yeah, I love the commissioner, but Letestu does have better advanced stats and is essentially a more offensive but slightly worse defensive Letestu. And I mean, McClellan's not going to play the same system that Eakins and God, I hope he doesn't play the same.
Nilsson.
But Nilsson did, yeah. So we're also going to see the lineups. We're not going to have a four-checking line. Maybe he normally runs 3.5, 4 lines. So we'll see where that goes. Nilsson, actually, before I share my thoughts on Nilsson, because I've been going on for a while, what do you guys think about Nilsson getting the one-way, or not the one-way deal, the one-way deal, but he can't get sent down to the AHL, so he has to either. Okay, he can?
Well, he can. He just has to clear waivers.
Yeah. Right, he has to clear. Sorry, but what do you guys think about the fact that they brought him in to challenge Scrivens for the backup?
I'm gonna throw it to James first. Yeah. James.
My thoughts are cautious optimism. All about this cautious optimism here. Like I said before, I was super surprised by it, and I think that it's good. I think competition is a good thing to have. I think that Scrivens is a good leader from the back end. He seems like he's well liked, well respected in the locker room, but he was pretty bad last year, and I think that any sort of competition is good, and we didn't give up anything for Nilsson, in my opinion. So if he has to clear waivers, I mean, he has to clear waivers, whatever. Like that's not a big deal to me. I like the trade, and I like the signing for training camp. And then once the season actually gets going, I'm probably not actually going to care about it that much. That's my thoughts.
So one problem, I'm gonna switch me. one problem I'm having with this is the one part that no one's really recognizing, and I'm a little afraid of, is that our AHL roster. So if one guy stays up here, oh, can you guys not hear me?
No. I'm just hearing you guys. I hear tapping. I don't know if it's my mic or yours, but keep going, I'm sorry.
It might be me shaking my leg. Oh, you
That's
hear
what that is.
pounding.
Yeah. I can hear it too.
Yeah. Okay, so. Oh, it closed. The problem that I sort of have with this signing is that once it's all over, said and done, so on and so forth, one person has to go back to the minors. And in that AHL team, we now have a solid 1-2, or a solid enough 1-2 punch in terms of two future up-and-coming players that in the future we hope is going to become our next starting goaltender, or at the very least a very serviceable backup. And they are Eetu Lorikainen.
Lorikainen, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Brassois. And they're both 22 years old. So then the problem that happens with that, was it? We run the potential issue of then having a 28-year-old or a 25-year-old replacing one of them in the AHL level, and I'm not too happy about that. Like, I want Brassois and I want Lorikainen to get games in the AHL and to develop themselves and have that training experience in order to become better goaltenders. That being said, in terms of like training camp, challenging Scrivens, it's a good deal. So what I'm sort of expecting to happen then is one will beat out the other, and then the third player will stay up, and eventually at some point in the season will get traded, or they'll get sent down, and closer to the trade deadline they'll get traded.
What if they just refuse to report?
Who? The player?
Yeah, like Nilsson or Scrivens. Like, what if they just say, no, I'm not going down to the AHL, so deal with it? Like, what happens then?
I think they have to play before
they can be suspended
a certain date, or they can't play the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't see Scrivens being cool with being sent down to the AHL, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I don't imagine that happening though. Like what I think this is the biggest part for this is that it creates competition, and goaltender competition is, I mean, it's been proven to be one of the best things for development. And the thing about Lorikainen is we haven't seen him play in North America since the WHL. So what, if anything, it may not be a bad idea to send him down to Norfolk. Norfolk, did I say that right?
Norfolk? Yeah.
Anyway, so so send him down to CHL, give him a chance maybe there, because I don't think since Tyler Bunz is gone, he'd probably be the starter immediately. The other goaltenders I was looking at were, one was 34 or something like that, 32 or 34, and the other one was a goalie who had an 800 save percentage or something terrible. So Lorikainen may get pushed down, but that may not be a bad thing for his development. He could spend maybe a few months there to a year. Injuries are probably going to happen. Hopefully not to the goaltenders, obviously, but we'll see. I don't know if Nilsson's going to push Scrivens that hard. Scrivens is still a reliable backup. He's going to come in with intensity into training camp. He's going to be annoyed at the fact that he played badly last year and rejuvenated by the team. And I think they're going to give him a chance. I just hope they haven't discounted him out by bringing Nilsson in outright.
So Adam, this is purely for recording sakes. My Yeti mic unfortunately got disconnected partway through, so I had to restart as a different recording. So in terms of splicing that together, this is the point.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. So I think, do you guys have any other thoughts on the signings and trades?
My only concern essentially was what happens with the goaltending situation, and I'm still sort of like it's a complete thrown up in the air. We have no idea what's actually gonna happen. And then the only other one, I do have good things to say about Korpikoski. That's the only thing else I want to say. Korpikoski he's always been a hot cold player. That's sort of the reason why he's never been a second or a first line player, because if he was truly a hot player, then when he's scoring that well during that phase, should completely take over. And he had a permanent job on that second line as a top
I
six
remember
wing.
liking him quite a bit.
Pardon?
I remember liking him quite a bit for a while too.
Yeah.
He was with the Rangers, I believe, before Phoenix. So I remember liking him. He's
he was good in Phoenix.
I don't know. I don't remember who it was
before.
exactly that said that they're filler or competition for the young guys. I kind of agree with that. He's like in Purcell, like him and Purcell, the third line wingers are like, is it going to be them or is it going to be Draisaitl who's on the team? So I think that there's going to be a lot of competition here going forward. I'm looking forward to it. I don't think Korpikoski is going to be with the team long term though.
On that note, actually,
Go.
I was going to say I had a question. So if you're going to go stay with that point, Arun, then go ahead.
Like in terms of his career stats, like he's had some fairly successful seasons with the Coyotes. Like he had one season where he got 40 points and was a 20-goal scorer. He had another season where he got 37 points. He had that lockout shortened season. He still managed to put up 11 points in 36 games, which is quite impressive. So one could account last season and sort of part of the season beforehand. Part of the season beforehand, he was scoring at a better pace, and he played less games, so he only had 25 points. So it could be stated that last season was actually just an anomaly compared to the rest of his career. The only concern that I sort of have with him is that maybe it would have been nice to get someone who was a little better in defensive zone.
I think for me the issue is this a signing because he's a veteran and he's left wing and he can fit in their left wing role, or is it because he's a good player for the Oilers? And I'm not sure if he's a solid player for us. We don't need inconsistency from veterans. We already have that from Nikitin and Ferentz and Purcell. Oh, he's 28. Well, I'm not really a veteran, I guess. For the Oilers, he's a veteran.
Yeah.
I mean, Sekera is technically a veteran for us because of the age of a defenseman, but we don't really. I mean, the last thing a team needs is inconsistency. If you have inconsistency in goaltending, you're going to burn. If you have inconsistency on defense, you can't play them reliably. If you have inconsistency forwards, you have to switch up your lines all the time, try to figure out what works. Inconsistency in the NHL kills you. Whether it's inconsistency, you're a great producer or defenseman. If you're consistent, even if it's a little production or a lot of production, consistency is key to a lot of things. And I don't like to harp on it, but I feel like a player who can't produce offensively consistently, can't defend consistently, isn't the right player for us right now. And I think, I wouldn't be opposed to Draisaitl pushing him out of the lineup if they're going to allow him to play wing, and he's willing to play wing apparently. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think for the moment, Korpikoski hasn't lined up because we don't have a third-line wingman right now, or an NHL one at least.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys move on?
Fair enough. Yeah. No.
Yeah,
Sure.
we can move
Yep.
on.
All right. So moving on past free agency a little bit, orientation camp. I know I'm unfortunately not in Edmonton, so I didn't get a chance to go out. I think James, you went to the scrimmage and a practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who stood out for you the most?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard not to say McDavid and Nurse and Draisaitl.
But it's McDavid and Nurse and Draisaitl.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they were clearly the three best guys there. This is the first time, actually, I had seen McDavid and Nurse play in person, so that was exciting for me. Nurse looks like an NHL player now. He's always been big, but he was kind of scrawny before. Now it looks like he's put on, quite a bit of weight. He looks mean too, McDavid, obviously, I mean, every single drill, he just blew past defenders like it was nothing. I was blown away with how fast he is. It's such a stupid thing that we should all know by now. He's fast, but to actually see it in person was like, holy smokes, this guy is good. And then that was just during the drills, and then I went to the inter squad scrimmage, the Billy Moore's Cup, and there was like 7,000 or 8,000 people there at Rexall just to watch this 4-on-4 hockey being played.
I think it was recorded like more than 10,000 people.
more than 10,000. Yeah, like it's just ridiculous. But so McDavid tore that up. Nurse looked really good as well. Draisaitl did not look good in the scrimmage. I thought he had a really nice assist, but McDavid schooled him a couple times, and he looked kind of
He schooled
bored
McDavid
for
once.
Yeah, he did.
most
He
of the
burned McDavid a
scrimmage.
couple times.
He burnt
He did,
McDavid
yeah,
on defense once, and then McDavid
he
went,
looked-
"Screw you, I'm scoring."
Bored. He looked bored. I'm not putting any real stock into that scrimmage, so other than those three, Ethan Bear looked good, the new guy. The Czech goalie, Miroslav Sobota, both 2015 draft picks, he looked good. Other than that, like everyone was okay. So it's like I said, it's drills, so you can't put too much stock into it, but it's hard not to get excited as well. So
Yeah.
it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Wait, was that an echo?
Keep going.
All right. I liked the major players. Was it? I watched it the entire match on YouTube. So players I liked. There's the obvious ones. I liked Draisaitl. I thought Draisaitl was that kind of player that was silent yet impressive. To me, like, you have to really pay attention to what he was doing in order to drive the play forward, in order to understand, like, oh, so that's how he's contributing. And, like, if you watched his WHL, the playoffs as well, that's the way that he's playing, and that's the way that he usually plays. He's not the kind of person to, like, go steaming head full of steam. He's the kind of player that at times looks a little bored, but still is actually playing quite effectively. And that's not to say that, like, James is wrong or anything. I'm just saying that that's just how I interpreted it. Also, players that looked exceptionally well to me, Ben Betker had a really solid first half, and then second half, McDavid sort of just took over with pure skill. But I thought Betker was fairly good, and I think he possibly has a future as a defensive defenseman with their team. Wait, am I? Okay, never mind. And then McDavid was obvious. I mean, he scored 5 goals, right?
Yeah.
Is my voice deep? It's like, oh, I'm a man now.
Anyway.
This is the exact
Keep going. Keep going.
Okay. What's it? McDavid was 5 goals. Nurse was really good. One problem that I sort of have with Nurse is that I felt as though at times, like, he was unnecessarily jumping into the play. So I do think a few games, or perhaps even a season at the AHL level, could help him. And then the person that I was most impressed by throughout that entire thing was Lalegia, yeah. So I felt as though he had extremely smooth skating. He was doing a lot to make sure to keep the offense rolling. I feel he has a definite future in terms of driving our power play into the future. Perhaps he needs to work a little bit on a shot, considering that he doesn't have particularly a very tall frame. He just needs to work on his effectiveness and keeping his stick in an effective way in order to poke pucks away. But I was thoroughly impressed by him. He did a lot of things right. Yeah, I'm gonna throw it to Adam. That was long.
Yeah. So I didn't get to go watch any of them, unfortunately, but I did watch the scrimmage and some of the highlights, and I unfortunately couldn't do too much as I was busy. But I actually really like Ben Betker. He showed a lot of ability and a lot of hockey IQ, which I really liked. Of course, there was McDavid and Nurse and Draisaitl. I think for me, when I watched the scrimmage, Draisaitl looked bored, but that's what I also said in Kelowna, but he was putting up ridiculous numbers. So I think part of it is he plays a really calm and controlled style, and that might be interpreted sometimes as laziness or as boredom. I think that's more just him reading the play and him getting involved because he doesn't have to move that much because he knows where to be. With McDavid, God, he's fast. He didn't even look like he was skating hard, and he was blowing by everybody. Darnell Nurse too is probably honestly, for me, I'm most impressed by so far. We saw him in the World Juniors. He came in last year into the camp and into training camp, and he was kind of rough around the edges. He wasn't particularly fast. He wasn't. Well, he was fast and he was strong, but he was undisciplined and he would jump up a lot and he would read the play incorrectly a lot of times. And he comes this year, he was the most physical in the game by far. There was a bit of a scrum, but he still put, I think, 4 or 5 people on their butts. He was pushing and shoving more than anybody else.
Petker was also physical.
Yeah, but Nurse was just beyond. And then of course, like Arun said, you said you were kind of worried about, or not worried, but you noticed he was jumping up a lot, and that's kind of something I noticed too. But I think that's more that an attributed to how he played in Sioux, because they did have a very offense-focused defense, right? At least with him and Theodore, or was it Theodore? No, sorry, he played with Theodore at the World Juniors, but he played with can't remember his name. Anyway, so he was a defenseman in that case, but he still jumped up a lot, and I think that's part of the his game right now, and that, like you said, will probably change in the AHL. As for goaltenders, I really liked what Savodba did. I cannot say that. Jesus. So he impressed me too. There was
Savoda.
So there was the weak goal. Sabota. All right. There was the weak goal against him that was like, well, whatever. But again, it was 5-5, 4-4, 3-3.
There was no 5-on-5. It was just 4-on-4.
Oh, was it just 4-4 and 3-3? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it was, it's kind of that thing where it's like, okay, well, they're all good and they all look really fast. But there's also a lot of room out there. McDavid scored 5 goals, but it's still a scrimmage.
That's why you can't put too much stock into it, no matter what.
Yeah,
I mean, 4-on-4, that's never going to be a real game. So
no. I mean, it's not even going to be an OT game anymore.
Yeah, actually, speaking of that, that's actually
nice segue.
Nice segue. That's true. Segues.
So we didn't talk about the NHL rule changes, which 2 primary ones. There was the face-off execution, going like to change it again, where anytime you're in the defensive zone player puts the stick down first rather than the away team. And at center ice, it still is the away team. That one, to me at least, doesn't change much. But then there's the OT 3-on-3 for 5 minutes rather than 4-on-4 and then straight to a shootout, which I'm not particularly a fan of, but I'll go into that after. James, why don't you start this one?
So the face-off thing, like you, I'm pretty indifferent about. I don't care about it too much. The overtime thing interests me a little bit more. I actually don't mind it. Shootouts are a gimmick. 3-on-3 overtime is a gimmick, and I think that in my mind the 3-on-3 is designed to have fewer shootouts, so more open ice, more games ended by play as opposed to a shootout. That's what it is in my mind. I'm not exactly sure what the intentions are there, but I don't mind it. Fewer shootouts for me is a good thing. So that's my opinion on that.
My opinion on that. The only question mark that I have is if I said 3-on-2. Oh, what?
No, you're back. All right.
You're back. Okay. You're back.
We lost you originally.
Don't worry. I love making fancy faces. 3-on-2. Like, how does it work when it's a power play?
I think what they said is that if it's a penalty, that the team with the power play gets a 4th player, so it's 4-on-3, and then the player on the penalized teams come back out, and it's 4-on-4 until the next play only goes back to 3-on-3.
Oh man, that will be confusing as heck, because there might be some accidental too many men penalties.
Mm-hmm.
And that would completely kill like the transition between ending the play. My video's gone?
No, it's your audio.
My audio's lagging.
We keep losing your audio. Yep.
Okay, I'm just gonna throw it off to Adam.
All right, so I would have actually preferred that they had gone with the AHL system with the 5 minutes of 4-on-4, 5 minutes of 3-on-3, then shootout. They're all kind of gimmicky, but if I can share a little bit of an anecdote, my first NHL game I saw was Toronto versus Vancouver in Vancouver when I think I was like 8 years old or seven or 8. Went to the game, saw them play, and I think the game ended 4-4. And it was just, I loved the game because I was a kid, it was great. It was the first NHL game ever. But that feeling of a game ending 4-4 is just, it's disappointing. I mean, it's the same thing when I watch, a football game and it ends in a tie. In a football game, I mean soccer, it ends in a tie. It's just like, it was a good game and it was exciting, but it was like, it feels a little bit empty. And I like the games finishing in a win. Shootouts are a little gimmicky way to finish it, but I prefer if they went 4-on-4, 3-on-3, then shootout. 3-on-3 is a good step, but I'd still prefer the AHL system.
And I'm gonna put my controversial opinion here. A lot of people are saying get rid of the shootout. I actually like the shootout. I like it when there's that brief moment of general skill being used and being important in the game, even though there's an element of luck associated.
But I think the biggest issue, playing devil's advocate here, because I don't mind the shootout either in a way that it solves the game, but you can't have continuous OT. That'd be the ideal situation. You can't do that in regular season.
It's not realistic.
But with the shootout, it's no longer, hockey's a team game, and although it has individual components to it, you're almost always playing as a team, and so you're having this isolation scenario between a goaltender and a shooter where, frankly, it's more equal than like a soccer shootout, but it's very gimmicky. It's almost like a skills competition thing, but you're running into a situation where it's a vacuum event and it's not a team event, and hockey's a team sport. So shouldn't realistically the game end in a team fashion?
I mean, you say that. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, you say that, but overtime can go for how long? Every single year we see overtime going for, like forever. You can't do that in the regular season.
Yeah.
Games and the schedule, it's long enough as it is. I think I've made my thoughts about the NHL season being too long before, but I don't know. I like the AHL as well, like what they do with the 4-on-4 and then the 3-on-3, but then I just feel like that's too many segments almost of a game, and I want as few games to go to a shootout as possible, but I want the game to be done as quickly as possible too. So I feel like the 3-on-3 is a good step towards that. I don't really want to do the 4-on-4 and then the 3-on-3.
Why is that?
Just 3-on-3.
It's gimmicky.
Okay, when we go 5-on-5.
Oh, come
to
on.
4-on-4 to 3-on-3.
No. Hold on. No.
It's like 2 extra periods almost. I don't know. I feel like it's too much stop and start. That's what I don't like about it. I want the game to be done quickly. People have short attention spans. Yeah, I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. I would be willing. I've never actually seen the AHL one in action. I've never watched an AHL game, as far as I know. I like the All-Star game I've watched, but that's pretty much it. So I would like to see how that goes in person.
Okay, so I agree. The AHL thing apparently is that if you were saying that it's quite exciting and that it is good for that it's entertaining, but Arun, you can't say that 4-on-4 to 3-on-3 is gimmicky and then say you like shootouts more as a solution. That's just that's cheesed, man. That's brutal. Can't bring that crap in here.
I mean, at least with shootouts, there's like some kind of universal standard here. Like IHF rules indicate that like if a game ends like past OT, you're gonna go to a shootout. That's international rules. With that kind of thing, like the only league that does 4-on-4 and then 3-on-3 is AHL, which is a level lower than even the NHL. I don't like that system.
They also started with hybrid icing, and the hybrid NHL now is hybrid icing.
Oh, that's true, I guess.
I guess.
Screw you and your logic. Anyway, my headphone is acting up. My thoughts about that is basically I understand the team component and everything, but who remembers in a playoff game OT goal? Who remembers the guys who passed it to him? It's always who scored. That's the most important thing.
Well, I mean,
So
there's
as soon as
he
you
went
get
for the Blues.
God damn it, guys! So the most important thing in a like
I like
a,
it better than
in
goals.
an even situation, like a winner takes all kind of situation, is the individual that comes up big. That's always a storyline, isn't it? It's
Okay.
who comes up big in order to be that guy.
So who passed the puck to Crosby in that gold medal winning game when they won in Vancouver?
I'm pretty sure he's Colorado Avalanche legend Jerome Iginla.
No, but nobody remembers the guy that passed it to him.
I do.
No, because we're Canadians. Like if
I
you go back,
definitely-
go to.
You just said that nobody remembers the person who passed it to him. You're muted as one. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. Like it's randomly muting itself.
So, but you literally just said that you don't. You
Guys,
don't remember
stop calling me up for this shit. Oh my god. No, I understand. Okay. I like shootouts. They're fun.
That's there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like not, but
I mean, like if for those of you people that watch Achievement Hunter, this is a situation where I should get a shirt that says people like shootouts, and then it's all good. And there's two people on the podcast that understood that joke.
Yeah, I get it. Part of something, but what I don't know. For me, I've always loved overtime, and I think that's part of it. Is that for me, it feels more justified for a game to end in OT. And I know, like, you can't really say it's justified if it's 4-on-4 and then 3-on-3 for 10 minutes total. It's just it is gimmicky, but for me, it's more I preferred ending in a team than solo in a shootout. That said, I still like the shootout. I mean, you look at some of the moves that guys pull off in shootouts, and there's obvious skill there.
The
It's a
force
dedication
work.
skill. Yeah. I mean, it's just unreal. But I'd prefer if they went to the AHL system. I think 3-on-3 will solve a lot of the problems. I know Crosby was saying that it was a good step forward, and that's kind of an interesting way to look at it. Is that it's a step in a direction of finishing more games in regulation rather than not regulation before the shootout, which a lot of people have problems with. So, we're all gonna have different views. All right, so at this point we've hit the end of our regularly scheduled topics. So we've come up with a few extra ones that we feel that we'd like to discuss or talk about a bit more. And I came up with or at least James and I kind of discovered that it was kind of a controversial opinion, at least between us, where in the next 2 to 4 years, if you have to trade a big player by the name one of Eberle or Yakupov, who do you choose and why? And I know that's not a fun thought because I love Yakupov and I love Eberle, but I know I have an opinion. I know James has a different opinion, but Arun, you're going to get your mic fixed first and then you can go, so we'll start with James.
James.
We're not going to go with me?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. So Adam's presenting, but I'll talk.
I am?
So Eberle and Yakupov. Okay. So if I had to choose, I would trade Yakupov. I don't know, man. It's a tough thing to defend. I feel like No,
you're good.
Okay. So no, I feel like Eberle, Hall, Nuge, they've all been together for a couple of years now. There's good chemistry there. Yak has somehow been almost lost in the shuffle of the team, and I feel like people still really like him, but he's still almost remained a bit of an outsider. He's not there for his defensive game, obviously, but there's just nothing there for him. If he's not scoring goals, he's being chippy, which I guess is okay, but he's not there to be chippy, okay? You don't draft somebody first overall and be like, yeah, he was really scrappy in the boards. Like, no, you want 30 goals from this guy, and he's not doing it. And it's been 3 years now. I'm not saying trade him, definitely not, but if it came down to Eberle and Yakupov, I would get rid of Yakupov, and I don't think I would think twice about it.
Yeah. No, Adam, you can go next because you were on the other side of the spectrum.
Now my opinion kind of centralized around the fact of return. Now, with and taking in consideration that we now have McDavid, and McDavid
Sorry,
is.
I want to interrupt. Adam, my podcast mic accidentally cut out again, so the third recording is starting at this point.
Oh boy. Okay. So anyway, going back to what I was
Audacity.
saying, part of it is that we have McDavid now, and with McDavid, he's going to produce a crap ton of points. Now, with the situation is that if you look at it, you have McDavid, you have Hall, you have Draisaitl now, we have Eberle, we have Yakupov, and we have Pouliot for now. Whoever else comes up in the next few years, which could be Slepyshev, could be Chase, could be Yakimov. But if you look at return, the best return we're going to get isn't for Yakupov because his stock is low. And in a trade, if you're going to trade one of your big players, yes, you have to consider loss, but you also have to consider return. Now, I'm not in favor of trading either of them, frankly, because especially at the moment, it'd be stupid to trade one of them. But if it comes down to one of the two, I think one of the you have to look at the return. And for me, Eberle gets a better return than Yakupov because he's more established, because he's more well known. And it's that iffy thing where it's like Yakupov has more untapped potential that we see at the moment, or like his ceiling is unknown right now. Whereas we've seen Eberle be a more consistent producer and is consistently effective.
So you're banking on Yakupov reaching his potential.
Because I had said initially a couple of years down the road. So I know that's a cop-out, but for me it'd be see where they are in 2 years and go from there. Right now, it's still iffy for me, mainly because I know your bank. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for that, but Eberle's gonna get you more of a return. Eberle can get us a top flight defenseman and a pick or something like that. Well, maybe not and a pick, but it'd be a solid deal for us. We get a very good return that helps the team towards the future. We'd be losing a lot of production, and I don't know if Yakupov can regenerate all that. But between Yakupov and McDavid, it can make up for and probably increase the amount of production that Eberle had alone. That said, of course, you're getting rid of production with Eberle that would have had with McDavid, which is more than McDavid and Yakupov would produce. Maybe. Probably.
If we got rid of Eberle, that would mean our right wing depth is like Yakupov, Purcell.
Yeah, and
I don't even know who would be on the fourth line. Klinkhammer, maybe. I don't even know. I don't know. I just I don't like the sounds of that, man. I agree with you. I mean, Eberle's definitely going to bring in a better return at this point, but then you have to think of like, okay, well then you're left with Yakupov, who still isn't producing, or he still hasn't produced. And, the idea that he has untapped potential is definitely valid. There's something there for sure, but I have my doubts as to whether or not he's going to reach it. And I think that it's I don't know. I think that the chemistry thing with Hall and Nugent Eberle, it's important to keep going. I like that. So,
James, or not? Sorry, Arun.
Yeah. Hi, I'm James. See, I have a really hard time talking about this because how we started talking about this or prefaced it was that next 5 years kind of thing, right?
Well, next 2 years, next 2 to 3 years. Basically, I was thinking at the end of Yakupov's contract.
At the end of Yakupov's contract. So that would be the end of the next 2 years.
2 years.
Yep. I don't know. Because there's validity in what Adam's saying, but there's also validity in what James is saying. Because in that time, if Yakupov is staying around the same level that he is now, I would say trade Yakupov, because it's becoming obvious at that point either he's not going to succeed with our team, or he's just not going to succeed at this NHL level. Like there was some part play still needed rounding out. He's too doubtful himself, or he's just not skilled enough to play in the NHL. But if he does even show signs of potentially reaching that amazing potential that we know that he has somewhere in him, then I would let Eberle go. But that being said, like if Eberle also emerges as an equally worthy 40 goal scorer, and they're both 40 goal scorers, then who knows what'll happen? Like it might be a case where Eberle, like Draisaitl ends up being traded, or Nuge ends up being traded. Is my audio cutting out that much?
No, it's just your voice went from really low to normal again. It's funny, entertaining. Sorry. Keep going.
I'm very sorry for those people that the audio is cutting out this much. My laptop is a little old, and it's not able to power all the USB ports very effectively. We do plan on getting a laptop at the end of next month, but not yet. So, yeah, voice modulations. But yeah, like honestly, the key thing about what I'm saying is that you can't predict what's going to happen 2 years into the future. It's just not possible. Like, who knew that Mark Giordano, who was a fourth-line winger with the Oilers, would end up being good enough to be a third-line or a second-line winger with Calgary? Like, who knew that?
What?
You think you're talking about Curtis Glencross?
Glencross!
It's like, what?
Giordano also applies. Who knew that a KHL defender would suddenly emerge as like a potential Norris candidate?
Giordano still definitely applies.
Yeah.
He's okay.
Still applies. Also applies. Who knew that Kessel would have such an off year this year? Who knew that Lupul's injury problems would consistently persist? Who knew that Senna would drop off like this? And so on and so forth and so on and so forth. Like, you just can't 100% predict it. And that's what makes hockey so don't know what's going to happen.
All right. So I guess with me for that one, like I already went over it, so we're gonna move on because I think I'm gonna catch a lot of
So one quick point. At this point, I'm in my 6th recording of Audacity, so
oh my God.
I'm probably just gonna stop, and we're probably gonna have to convert this audio.
I'm gonna off myself if I have to edit that. Anyway, going back to what I was saying, I don't know if we can really say definitively what we do because, like you said, there is a bit of an unknown. I know I'm more towards one side, Jim's more towards the other, but that's, I mean, I can also say my favoritism plays into that a little bit. I know I do love Yakupov, but not to the point where I'd refuse to trade him if there was an offer available that would surpass maybe what we'd get for, in value at least, and in terms of keeping production for Yakupov. So moving on slightly, I think we'll cover maybe 1 or 2 more questions before we have to end for this week. But there's been a lot of talks lately about buyouts, and I know the buyout window, I believe, starts soon. The second one starts soon. Would you rather buy out Nikitin, Ferentz, or maybe an outside one like Purcell, or I know people talk about Schultz, although we went to arbitration, so that's not really. What did I do?
I'll start because I think my audio is going to cut out at any moment.
Arun, you looked eager.
I am eager. If my audio will keep up with me. So I am in favor, just because there's a. Can we buy out Ferentz? I know. Doesn't he have a no movement clause?
You can buy out a player, but you can't like trade. If he has an NMC, he can't be traded without permission.
He can't be traded. He can't be sent to the minors. None of that.
Minors,
you can buy him out.
I would buy out. I would buy out Ferentz. the only other person that but I think more effectively buying out Ference now is buying out Ference at the end of next season.
Brutal.
Years. Is it that bad?
Yeah, you keep cutting it out, and your voice is changing, and
we're gonna have to look at this.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm just gonna stop, guys. I can't.
Okay, do you want me to take over here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I am going to do a 180 from that. Geez, no, I'm not. I really wish I could argue with Arun on that, but I would go with Ference as well. Nikitin only has 1 year left on his contract. Just suck it up. I think that Nikitin has a better chance to bounce back than Ference does. Ference is like 36 years old. Like, he's going downhill hard.
Mm-hmm.
Nikitin, I mean, he's never been a fantastic, impactful NHL player, but he's got a better chance to turn it around and be a useful roster player than Ference. I think that I think Purcell, no, just suck it up again. Ference, Arun had started to mention this a little bit, but I think it would be a good idea maybe to buy him out at this time next year. Nikitin will be gone at that point. Ference will only have 1 year left on his contract. That's the way it's gonna go, I think. Not that anything could happen, but if I were Mr. Chiarelli, I would keep both of them for the year, and yeah, unfortunately, stuck with them for one more season. Have Nurse down in the minors for, well, not even for the whole year. I don't know. We'll see how much Ference even plays. I mean, like I said, he's going downhill hard, so we might see some serious press box time.
So Arun says Nikitin will be bought out, less penalty and less pressure. Ference will retire after the coming season.
That's something to think about as well. Yeah.
I think. Do you think it presents an issue if you buy out the captain? Does that cause issues within the locker room? Does that cause issues with management? Trust issues? Arun says no, but James, what do you think?
I think no as well. Ference, he is I honestly think Ference is like a pretty good captain. Not a good NHL player anymore, but like fairly good as a captain. I think that he's also like mature enough to understand that he is going downhill. And they might not have another captain lined up. They might go with the three A's, Hall, Eberle, and whoever. And Hendricks maybe, I don't know. But yeah, there might be some issues there if the captain was like someone dramatic, but I don't think that Ference is that kind of player or that kind of guy. So if he does get bought out at the end of next season or asked to retire or whatever, I think that would be something that he can deal with in a mature way. And yeah, sort of like Ryan Smith. I think, did Ryan Smith have a year left on his contract when he retired, or was he at the end of the road with his contract? I can't even remember. But he sort of stepped aside. It was done like pretty gracefully. It was clear that he was done. So I think that Ference will be at that same point here next year.
Yeah. Now, I don't think it would cause serious issues. You have to look at it. I don't know if it would cause more issues to bench the captain or buy him out. And I think it's more that it would cause.
Hello?
Yeah, you're working. I don't know.
I just put myself on laptop mic.
All right. I don't know if it would cause issues for either, to be honest. But for me, the player we have to buy out is Ference because he has a longer contract. Nikitin, like you mentioned, he's bigger, he's a little younger, he has a better shot. I think he has a more chance of being not impactful, but actually like partially useful, or at least not a detriment. And I think, or more so than Ference. So if we're gonna buy out one of the two, I think it has to be Ference. I don't think we can buy out Nikitin and be comfortable with going into next year. With that said, it might be a better value if we hold on to him for another year and then buy him out, because I think his contract is much lower. I think it's like 1.25 cap hit after next year for 1 year or something like that, rather than I think it was 2-something and then 1-something. But we essentially save money that way. It's not a huge deal either way, but I think if we're going to buy out one of them, it has to be Nikitin for me. Or not Nikitin, sorry, Ference. And I want to touch one more. I think this will be the last question for today. And obviously this is the last year of Rexall. So I just want to just quick anecdotes maybe you guys have. I'm sure you've been to a couple games. What's your favorite moment from Rexall, or favorite, if not the favorite hockey moment?
I've only been to Rexall. I had a Power Pack 1 season, but I was in Nepal for a lot of that season. So I was only able to go to, 3 games? And then the other season I had... My mic's probably much worse, isn't it?
No.
Anyway, the other season I had not a Power Pack, but I just went to 1 game. That was in 2007, which is our bad season after making the playoff, just about almost winning the Stanley Cup. So my favorite moment, so to speak, was the Colorado Avalanche game. I think it was on the 25th of March. And that was the first time I saw the Oilers win live. And that was a fun experience, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's my happy moment in Rexall. Other than that, I've only been to concerts.
Okay. I have 2. I'll go over real quick. First one was Ryan Smith's first game back at Rexall after he was traded. He was a member of the Avalanche at that time, so he went to the Islanders, then signed with the Avalanche. He came back as a member of the Avalanche. There was a big standing ovation for him. Everybody cried. It was beautiful. And then secondly, I had it, and now I forget it.
Do you want me to go and then you can think of it?
Oh, yes. Okay. Hull and Eberle, their first game with the Oilers. It was against Calgary. Eberle scored that goal. There was a fight. You know, the Oilers. I can't even remember who it was now.
Steve McIntyre.
Was it McIntyre? Okay.
Yeah, it was
well,
McIntyre.
He just knocked out the Calgary player. It was gorgeous. Calgary, you know, we beat them 4-0. The entire Rexall was chanting "Kipper, Kipper," and at that time, you know, Hull and everybody, their first game, it was like, okay, they're going to turn it around. They're going to be a good team now.
Oh, no.
And that first game, we oh God, I was so excited for them. But obviously, you know, it didn't work out. But that game was awesome. So.
I've had the misfortune of, not misfortune, but I grew up in a military family, so obviously I move a lot. I've been to I don't know, remember the old stadium in Vancouver was, but I went to that stadium when it was the old one. I went to Pepsi Center. I've been to Rexall. I've been to a couple places, but my favorite moment at Rexall itself has to be the Avs versus actually exactly a year before Arun's game. When I saw the Oilers for the Avs, it must have been about March 23rd or 25th.
Oh, was that like 8-2 game where
they won. I think they won 5-2 or something like that. But it was a fantastic game, and I went with my buddy, and we were going to see the Canucks versus Oilers because I was an Oilers fan, he was a Canucks fan. But we ended up seeing Canucks versus Avs, or Oilers versus Avs, my 2 favorite teams, and just the atmosphere of being in there. It did feel like an old rink. It still feels like an old rink, but it's that place that has a lot of history. It's the home of the Oilers. There's all the banners there. There's Joey Moss during the anthem, and of course there was when Paul Oriole was still doing the national anthem, so he was there, and it felt good. It felt home, it felt like home.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the biggest one of the biggest losses after this year will be that I'm sure Rogers Place will be great, but Rexall is a homely feeling for me. It's the home of the Oilers. But
the one thing that I liked about Rexall all the time was that it always felt like it was an old building, and you knew it was an old building the whole time. But one thing that always stood out for me was the fact that you knew it was old, you knew like all the things around it, but it always felt as though it was important. Like there was a significance to the building. Like as soon as you stepped on it, you would recognize that this was a place that Gretzky was at. This is a place where we saw one of the greatest dynasties, not within my lifetime, but within your average hockey player's life, or hockey fan's lifetime. So, like, there's a lot of importance to it, and like, I remember first coming to Rexall. At first, I was like, "Wow, this building's really old," and then, like, that sensation only lasted around 5 seconds before I went, "This building's really important." But hey, yeah.
Yeah, just to build off of what you guys both sort of said, the first game that I ever went to Rexall, about 1998 or 99. I've mentioned this before. I am also a Leafs fan, so I went to Rexall with my dad when the Leafs were in town, and my dad and I used to do that like once a year. Whenever the Leafs would come, from like '98 till like today almost, we go when the Leafs are here. And I remember the first time like stepping out of the corridor and then looking around Rexall and being like, holy smokes, this place is huge. And we know now, in the grand scheme of things, like, Rexall is fairly small, but I had only ever been to minor hockey arenas before where there's seating for like 100 people. So stepping out and seeing the 100 level, the 200 levels, and then the 300 levels, there was a very grand feeling about it. It felt cavernous, and it felt important, you know, like Arun said. So that I remember that very specifically still. That was extremely cool to have that feeling.
Do you guys will cry at the last game of the year?
God, I might. I don't know. I don't have tickets for it.
No.
Or, I mean, I'm not a season ticket holder or anything, so I'm going to have to get my tickets through Kijiji, and I'm probably...
Good luck.
I know. I'm going to have to sell a kidney, I'm pretty sure.
You have two.
Yeah, exactly. I got a spare, whatever.
Arun, what do you think?
So.
No, nothing else to add. I mean, you guys have fun. It's the off season. The podcast will probably get shorter still. We're welcome for guests, by the way. We're opening an absolute must-have policy now concerning guests, where you do need a working webcam, and at least obviously you need a microphone or some way to record your audio. We would prefer it if you had a decent microphone, but that's not exactly something that most people all have on hand. But a webcam, absolute must in our eyes.
Yep.
Adam?
And with that said, we hope you guys enjoyed our podcast. We know it's a little shorter this week. There's not as much news. We kind of covered stuff that wasn't necessarily news necessarily this year, more just discussion. If you want to join us on the podcast, feel free to message any of us. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, let us know. Otherwise, follow us on Twitter at rOilers Podcast. Subscribe and like our YouTube channel, maybe. Up to you. Anyway, this is rOilers saying thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.